After my stroke, my daughter-in-law Amanda became the most caring, devoted helper you could imagine. She thought I was just a weak old woman, 82 years old, frail, and easy to manipulate. She'd creep into my room when she thought I was asleep, knocked out cold from the medicine she gave me, rummaging through my drawers, hunting for anything worth selling. But the night she opened my safe to steal my $17,000 and my grandmother's diamonds, her face turned ghost white as chalk, then soured into a queasy yellow like a rotten egg yolk. Because what she saw inside changed her life forever. And me, I just smiled in the darkness. I'm so glad you're here. Stay with me until the end, and comment the city you're watching from. I love seeing how far my story has reached. It all started a few months before that night. I still clearly remember that day my body betrayed me. I had just turned 82 when the stroke hit. It wasn't the kind that takes everything from you at once, but it was enough to shake my world. My left side felt heavy, my speech slowed, and suddenly I needed help with the simplest things: pouring tea, tying my robe, even walking to the porch to watch the world go by. Suddenly, I couldn't move as fast. My words would stumble and trip over each other. I hated feeling like my own body was leaving me behind. I've been independent my whole life. The kind of woman who mows her own lawn, pays her own bills, and keeps her jewelry polished every spring. And now, overnight, I was fragile. Or at least, that's how they saw me. My son David rushed over the day it happened. He was terrified. I could see the panic written all over his face, like he was already mourning me. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking a little, "I'm so scared of losing you. You have to take it easy. Promise me." I could see the panic written all over his face, like he was already mourning me. I promised, though inside I wanted to scream. I didn't feel like me anymore. He called me every hour that first week, checking in, hovering, worrying. And then, Amanda swooped in. My daughter-in-law, the angel of the family. 47, full of energy, always immaculate. Always eager to take over everything. Perfect hair, perfect smile. She was the kind of woman who always knew how to make an entrance. She glided into my house like she owned it and said in her softest, sweetest voice, "Oh, Mom," she said, holding my hand with that syrupy smile, "don't you worry about a single thing. I'll take care of you. I'll take care of everything now." She hugged me, kissed my cheek, and for a moment, I almost cried with gratitude. Maybe she really was my guardian angel. David was relieved and overjoyed. "Mom, we're so lucky to have Amanda. She's an angel. You just focus on resting." And so I did. At first. Amanda handled and drove me to my doctor's appointments. She cooked my meals, always insisting on feeding me in bed, even when I told her I could walk to the table. She reminded me to take the little pills she left on my nightstand. She even sat at the edge of my bed some nights, stroking my hand, sometimes even my hair, like I was her child. She was attentive, cheerful, almost too cheerful. It should have been comforting, but little cracks started to show. There was something about the way she watched me, the way her eyes flicked around my room. It made a tiny knot of unease settle in my chest. The first red flag came 2 weeks in. I was sipping tea in my bedroom while she was fluffing my pillows when she asked casually, "Do you keep cash at home? You know, in case of emergencies?" I blinked at her. "Some." "Why?" She smiled. "Oh, just thinking about safety. Some people keep it in shoeboxes, you know. But burglars, they look for that. You'd be safer if someone organized it for you." Her words were wrapped in sugar. The next day, she was dusting my dresser when she paused by my jewelry box. She picked up a pair of my pearl earrings, real pearls, my husband's gift on our 30th anniversary, and held them to her ear. "Beautiful," she whispered. Then, almost to herself, "It'd be a shame if something happened to these." Then she said, "Who keeps the certificates of authenticity now? It's risky leaving things lying around. Maybe I should organize them for you." I laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke. I brushed it off, telling myself it was just innocent curiosity. But the real twist of unease came when she offered to also organize my important papers. Your deeds, your will, your bank documents. I could put them all in a neat folder for you. That way, if anything ever happens, it's all ready for David. Her tone was soft, but my stomach tightened. I told her I'd think about it. And in the quiet of my room, that little voice began to whisper louder. Be careful. Something isn't right. I had no idea that whisper would soon become a scream. After that first uneasy whisper in my heart, Amanda's angel routine only deepened. She handled everything, my doctor visits, my meals, my medicine. Rest, Mom, she would say, tucking the blanket around my legs like I was a porcelain doll. You need to save your strength. Let me do all the hard stuff. At first, I told myself I was lucky. My friends from church had to hire help or beg their kids to visit. And here I was with a daughter-in-law who seemed devoted. But the more Amanda helped, the less of my life I seemed to own. She insisted I stop walking to the porch. What if you fall? She'd gasp, whisking away my robe. She moved my teapot from the kitchen to my nightstand. It's easier if you stay in bed, she said. She even kept the front door locked now, for safety. Every day I felt my world shrink, until my entire universe was just my bedroom and the woman who smiled too much. And then came the suggestions. Mom, she said one afternoon while refolding my scarves in the closet, burglars target houses like this. People know old ladies keep valuables lying around. You'd be safer if we put everything in one spot. One easy-to-access place. For emergencies, you know? She said it lightly, like she was thinking out loud. But her eyes never left my jewelry box. Another time, she was in my office, my private office where I kept bills, bank statements, and family photos. She had a stack of envelopes in her hand and that same soft, sugary tone. Look at all this paperwork. It's so messy. Wouldn't it be better if I filed all your important papers together? If anything happens, David will need them. She made it sound like love, but it felt like trespassing. The first real shiver of fear came with my wedding ring. I always slept with it on. It's a simple gold band with a small diamond, worn smooth over 60 years. My husband, God rest his soul, used to rub it whenever he held my hand. That morning I woke up and felt my finger bare. My heart lurched. I searched the sheets, the nightstand, the floor, nothing. When Amanda came in with her usual cheery, "Good morning, Mom," I stammered, "Amanda, my ring." "It's gone." Her smile never faltered. "Oh, Mom, you wore it yesterday, remember? You probably took it off during your bath and forgot. I'll check the bathroom for you." She vanished for a few minutes and came back, holding the ring. "See, right where I said." She slid it onto my finger and patted my hand, like I was a confused child. "You have to be more careful. We wouldn't want to lose it." Her voice was sweet like honey, but inside I felt hollow. Had I really taken it off? Or was I being handled like a puppet? It was the first time I doubted myself. And then the isolation began. Friends from church would call, wanting to visit, but Amanda would answer my phone and say, "Oh, she's resting today." She had a long morning. My neighbor, Mrs. Perkins, even knocked on the door one afternoon, bringing fresh muffins. I heard her voice through the hallway. "Oh, she's napping right now," Amanda said brightly. "I'll tell her you came by." I was awake. I heard every word. Days blurred together in that quiet, sweet-smelling prison of a bedroom. I'd lie there, listening to her footsteps in my home, listening to drawers open and close, listening to my life being rearranged without my consent. And that small whisper in my chest, "Be careful. Something isn't right," was growing louder. I thought she was helping me heal, but she was setting the stage to ruin me. It was around the 7th week when my unease turned into something darker. By now, Amanda had made herself the queen of my little world. She had a key to every corner of my life. She floated in and out of my bedroom, my office, even the attic where I kept my husband's old keepsakes and my mother's china. Always humming, always smiling, always helping. But the more she smiled, the less I slept with both eyes closed. Nights were the worst. I would lie in bed and continuously hear the entire house creaking around me. In the darkness, I wondered who was moving through my home like a shadow. I could almost feel it, the air shift when someone opened a drawer, the faintest rattle of a jewelry box lid. One Tuesday afternoon, I woke from a light nap to the sound of paper rustling. It was coming from my office down the hall. It wasn't unusual for Amanda to be tidying up. I had long since stopped asking her not to. But there was something different in the sound. It was quiet, careful, like someone trying not to get caught. I slid my legs over the bed and shuffled silently toward the doorway. My stroke had slowed me, but it had also taught me how to move quietly, carefully. My voice was still weak from the stroke, so I didn't call out. And there she was. Amanda. Phone in one hand. My bank statement in the other. Click. A soft camera sound from her phone. She was photographing my bank statements. My throat went dry. My heart stopped for a moment. I ducked back behind the doorframe before she could see me. My hands trembling. My chest felt tight, like the walls of the hallway were closing in on me. My own daughter-in-law. In my home. She wasn't just tidying. She was sneaking through my private life and photographing my bank statements. My heart thumped so loudly I swore she could hear it from across the hall. My first instinct was to storm in and demand an explanation. But something told me to stay still. To watch. After a few more clicks, she slid the papers back into their envelope, smoothed them, and walked out humming under her breath like nothing had happened. I stood in the hall for a long time, clutching the doorframe, my knees trembling. I wanted to call David. I wanted to scream. But what would I even say? Your wife was taking pictures of my bills. She would deny it. She would smile, and David would shake his head, thinking the stroke had made me paranoid. And that fear, that maybe no one would believe me, kept me silent. I spent the rest of the afternoon pretending to sleep while my mind spun in circles. Why would she need pictures of my bank statements? Why? What else had she been taking when I wasn't looking? That afternoon, when she left to pick up groceries, I checked my jewelry box. Something inside me told me I had to. The little knot of fear in my stomach had grown into a fist. And there it was. I opened the lid and felt my stomach drop. My sapphire brooch, my mother's, the one I wore to my son's wedding, was gone. And in its place, a cheap imitation, the kind you'd find at a flea market for cheap. I picked it up, my fingers trembling. It felt wrong. It was lighter than air. Felt like nothing in my hand. Hollow. Lifeless. I checked the other pieces. One by one, my heart sank. My ruby pendant necklace, missing. My diamond stud earrings, gone. In their place, plastic, glass, and metal that turned my fingers green. I stared at the empty spaces in the velvet tray, my breath shallow. My chest tightened. Tears burned the corners of my eyes. My hands trembled so badly I had to sit down. It wasn't just about the missing jewelry. It was the violation. Someone I had let into my home. Someone who gave me kisses and stroked my hair like she loved me. Every gentle touch now felt like a chain tightening around me. Was she stealing from me while smiling in my face? And worse, did she think I would never notice? I decided to test her, just a little. The next morning I said softly, "Amanda, have you seen my sapphire brooch? I can't seem to find it." She didn't even blink. "Oh, Mom," she said, her voice warm as honey. "You probably just misplaced it. The stroke, remember? You've been a little forgetful. I'll help you look." A few hours later, like magic, the brooch appeared on my dresser. "There it was," she said with a laugh. "Right where you left it." She patted my shoulder. Her touch burned. And for the first time since my stroke, I wasn't confused. I wasn't weak. I wasn't forgetful. I was being gaslit in my own home. I sat in my chair by the window that evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, and a bitter clarity settled over me. I thought my stroke had made me weak. But now I see. Amanda didn't just see weakness. She thought it had made me blind. And deep down, I knew she was just getting started. That night, I opened my closet and checked the safe, my last line of defense. They were still there, for now. The last pieces of my life she hadn't touched yet. And in that moment, the whisper in my chest turned into a roar. She's not done. She's planning something bigger. I just didn't realize how far she was willing to go to erase me. 2 nights later, I got the confirmation. That night, I had made a choice. I pretended to sleep. I had left my bedroom door cracked, my lights off. I let my breathing slow and my eyelids drift almost shut. The house was silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional pop of cooling wood. Then her steps slid across the floor like a snake in dry leaves. Soft, careful, deliberate. I heard her voice. Faint. She was on the phone. "The old lady's completely out of it," Amanda murmured. "She'll never notice. And even if she does, who's going to believe her? After the party, I'll get everything. David thinks I'm a saint for taking care of his mother." Then she laughed out loud, slicing right through me. After the party? Did she mean David's 57th birthday next week? Was that going to be her moment? And then she said the words that turned my blood to ice. "Once I move her into a home, it'll be so much easier. She won't even remember half this stuff." I lay there in the dark, staring at the dark ceiling. My hands, one on my chest, my heart was pounding. The other hand gripped the edge of my blanket. In that moment, the last pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. Amanda thought I was just a weak-old woman, 82 years old, frail from my stroke, an easy target for her greed and insatiable hunger for money. The extra pills she gave me. The constant insistence I rest and stay in bed. The soft warnings that it might be safer in a retirement home. It wasn't kindness. It was a plan. She wasn't just stealing from me. She was planning to erase me. I didn't know it yet, but that safe was a ticking time bomb. The fear that had been gnawing at my chest for weeks hardened into something sharper. Protective fury. I thought about my husband, gone these 20 years. I thought about my son, who trusted Amanda completely. And I thought about my life. The woman I used to be before stroke happened. If Amanda wanted to rob me, if she wanted to erase me, then I would make sure she never forgot the night she tried. And that's when I decided it was my turn to play the game. I knew that if I wanted to survive Amanda, I had to stop letting her control me. The first thing I did was stop taking her extra pills. Every night, Amanda would bring me my usual medicine, tiny white pills lined up on a little saucer, but sometimes she'd add an extra one. "Oh, Mom," she'd coo. "This will help you sleep through the night. You need your rest." And I had believed her. I used to swallow it without thinking. But that night after I overheard her phone call talking about moving me to a home, I slipped the extra pill under my tongue and let it sit there. As soon as she left the room, I spat it into a tissue and tucked it under my pillow. From that night on, I was done sleeping for her convenience. I was watching. The first night, I pretended to drift off whenever she came in, keeping my breathing slow, my eyelids barely open. Amanda came in like a ghost. She moved to my dresser, opened a drawer, and paused. I saw her fingers trace the edge of my jewelry box. Then she left quietly. No proof. Not yet. The second night I did the same. Soft footsteps. The faint creak of my closet door. And this time, what I saw broke my heart all over again. Amanda glided around my room like a ghost, opening drawers and checking jewelry boxes with soft, greedy fingers. Then, a flash of gold slipped into her pocket. My chest tightened, but I stayed still, forcing myself to be the silent witness. By the third night, there was no more doubt. Amanda picked up the frame of my late husband's photo, smiled at it for a second, then slid the tiny gold locket from behind it into her pocket. The locket he gave me on our first anniversary. I swallowed hard, tasting bitterness. My own daughter-in-law was stealing the pieces of my life. Her hands were soft, her heart was poison. I wanted to scream. I wanted to leap out of bed and grab her wrist. But I knew I had to stay quiet. I needed better proof. Then came the afternoons. During the day, I began noticing her pattern. Every afternoon around 2 p.m., Amanda would leave, always with a small tote bag, claiming she was picking up groceries or running to the pharmacy. "Groceries," she'd chirp. "Pharmacy run. Be back soon." But I started watching through the lace curtains in my bedroom. She always left with the tote bag and returned without it. My gut twisted. I needed to know exactly where my things were going. I knew I needed proof. Without it, no one would believe me, not even my own son. I called my granddaughter one afternoon under the guise of needing help with the computer. She came over, cheerful as always, holding a little tote of snacks. "Grandma," she laughed, sliding into the old swivel chair, "you still use Internet Explorer?" When she came over, we sat together at my old desktop. "Grandma," she laughed, "you still use Internet Explorer?" I smiled faintly. "Just help me look for something, dear," I whispered. "A sapphire brooch." We started scrolling through local selling websites, mostly out of curiosity, or at least that's what she thought. And there it was. My sapphire brooch. I leaned closer to the screen, my heart pounding. The deep blue gem had a tiny swirl in the silver setting, a mark my late husband always joked looked like a crescent moon. There wasn't another one like it in the world. I clicked the listing. My throat tightened. The description read, "Vintage heirloom. Excellent condition. Cash only." The seller's profile had no name I recognized. No familiar face. Just a plain logo icon. My mind spun. Was Amanda selling my jewelry directly? Or had she pawned it, and someone else was reselling it? I couldn't tell my granddaughter what was happening. Not yet. I wasn't ready to shatter her world with the truth about her aunt. "Grandma, these are pretty," she said, scrolling down. And that's when I saw the rest of my life spread across the page like a virtual yard sale. I scrolled through that web page in disbelief. My ruby pendant necklace, the one David gave me when he graduated college. My diamond stud earrings, my 60th birthday gift from my children. Even my mother's silver hair comb, the one she gave me at 16. Every memory I had lived, every milestone I had celebrated, was being listed for strangers to buy. My hands trembled in my lap. I forced my voice to stay even. "Sweetheart, can you download these images for me? Send them to my phone." "Sure, Grandma." "Why?" I smiled as calmly as I could. "Oh, I like the style. They're vintage. I'd like to keep the pictures." She grinned, thinking nothing of it. Then I leaned over and clicked the Contact Seller button. It says it belongs to a private pawn shop owner," my granddaughter read aloud. And suddenly the pieces clicked. Amanda's daily grocery trips. Her empty tote bag returning home. Those afternoons she disappeared just long enough to make a quiet transaction. I swallowed hard. All this time, while I was trapped in my bedroom, Amanda was out trading my memories for crumpled bills at a pawn shop. I thanked my granddaughter, tucked my phone into my cardigan pocket, and watched her leave with a smile. Inside, I was shaking with rage. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more than anger. I needed undeniable proof. Now I had the first piece of proof. She thought she had me trapped. She had no idea. I was about to trap her instead. But the jewelry was only the beginning. In the days that followed, I dug deeper. The next morning, I waited until Amanda left for her usual grocery run. I listened to the door click shut, then to the sound of her car pulling away. Only then did I rise from my chair, my legs trembling, not from weakness this time, but from anticipation. I shuffled slowly into my office, the room she had claimed for her organizing projects. The sunlight through the blinds made thin golden stripes across my desk. My heart thudded in my chest. I opened the top drawer first. There they were, folders, neatly labeled in Amanda's perfect handwriting. Bank, property, insurance, miscellaneous. I ran my fingers across the spines, cold and trembling. I hesitated, and then opened bank. The first thing I saw was a check. My name printed neatly on top. And at the bottom of it, a signature that wasn't mine. I picked up the check with trembling fingers and held it to the light. The loops were too wide. The pen pressure too heavy. The line of the L in Loretta was heavy and shaky, like someone pressing too hard to mimic confidence. My mouth went dry. I flipped to the next document, another forged signature. And another. Page after page of authorization slips, account forms, withdrawal requests. All with a name that was supposed to be mine. All of them signed by me. Except they weren't. I sank into the chair by the desk, the edges digging into my palms as I held on. The scope of Amanda's betrayal crashed over me like a wave. This wasn't just greed. Amanda wasn't only after my jewelry or my cash. She was dismantling my entire life. Piece by piece. Paper by paper. She was stealing the inheritance meant for my grandchildren, and setting up a life where I'd vanish quietly into a nursing home while she sold off everything I had worked for. If I disappeared, no one would even question her. If she moved me into a home, these papers would let her take everything. David would believe she was my savior, that she was helping me. And my grandchildren, they'd inherit nothing but a story about a senile old woman who gave it all away. I sat there in the striped light, the world narrowing around me. And that was the moment I knew. She wasn't just taking my things. She was planning to take my life on paper, too. And if she wanted a war on paper, she had no idea who she was really up against. For the first time in weeks, I felt my hands clench with pure, protective rage. Amanda thought I was a weak, helpless old woman. She thought I was blind. But now, I was wide awake. And for the first time, I wasn't scared anymore. Because I was ready to fight back. Amanda thought I was her prisoner. But now, I was the one watching her. After weeks of pretending to be the fragile old woman Amanda wanted me to be, I finally felt something new in my chest. Control. If she wanted a victim, she was about to get a predator instead. I spent the next few days planning my counterattack, methodically, quietly. The first step was proof. When Amanda went on her grocery trips, I shuffled through my house with new purpose. My hands trembled, not from fear anymore, but from excitement. I ordered 2 small hidden cameras online. They looked like ordinary USB chargers. The first went into an outlet in my bedroom, angled toward my jewelry box and closet. The second went into my office, staring straight at my desk and the file drawers where Amanda loved to organize my life, her favorite hunting ground. As I plugged them in, my hands shook with the thrill of taking back my home. I nearly got caught. Amanda came home early, her key jingling in the lock while I was still crouched by the desk. I slipped into my armchair and draped a blanket over my lap, feigning a nap. She peeked in, smiled, and whispered, "Poor thing," before closing the door. If she only knew. The tiny red recording light blinked once. To anyone else, it was nothing. To me, it was the heartbeat of my new plan. From now on, every smile she gave me would be caught on film, and so would every theft. The second step was bait. I needed to feed her greed. In the quiet hours while she was gone again, I printed fake bank statements with nonsense account numbers, a mock property deed with wrong dates, and a fake insurance claim. They looked official enough to tempt her. Numbers, stamps, and signatures that would make her fingers itch. I left them half tucked into a folder on my desk, just messy enough to whisper, "Steal me." I had never prayed for someone to rob me before. But now, I wanted Amanda to take the bait. Finally, it was time for my masterpiece. The safe in my closet, my last line of defense. Inside were my real treasures. $17,000 in cash. My grandmother's diamonds. The last pieces of my life Amanda hadn't touched yet, but planned to rob on my son's birthday. I stared at the safe, remembering the day my late husband brought it home. He had said, "For your peace of mind, Loretta. Just in case." And now, just in case had arrived. I closed my eyes, then opened them with a new idea. I had an old can of glitter in the attic from my granddaughter's art projects. Pink, loud, and impossible to ignore. With some tape, a spring, and a can of pink glitter, I could turn my safe into a trap. One twist of the dial, and Amanda would wear her crime for the whole world to see. The moment the safe door swung open fully, a glitter bomb would explode outward, showering the thief in sparkling proof of their crime. A little dramatic? Maybe. But it would be impossible to hide, impossible to deny. I wanted the world to see Amanda for what she really was. She would wear her crime in sparkling shame. So, I hauled the safe into the middle of the room, my arms straining, my breath shallow. Every creak of the floor felt like a drumbeat. With a bit of rigging and some tape, I created my simple trap. The perfect stage for my performance was already waiting. David's 57th birthday party. Amanda planned the party herself, the perfect distraction. I told her I might want to rest in my room, so I wouldn't get overwhelmed. She smiled in that syrupy tone. "Oh, Mom, that's fine. I'll even give you your medicine so you can sleep well that night." Deep in my bones, I knew she wanted me out of sight, out of mind, while she emptied the safe and erased the last of my life. So I smiled sweetly and played along. I spent the next few days rehearsing in my head like a quiet actress in the role of a lifetime. Every sigh, Every shaky step, every soft thank you, Amanda was part of the act. I made sure she saw what she wanted to see. A woman too frail to fight, too naive to suspect. She thought she was lulling me deeper into dependence. She had no idea. I was setting the trap that would change everything. My house had become a stage, my cameras the silent audience, and my safe the star of the show. She thought she would rob me blind on my son's birthday. She didn't know she was walking into her own glitter-covered funeral. She thought she was planning a party for my son. She didn't know I was planning one for her. The morning of David's birthday, I slipped fully into character. The frail, drowsy old woman Amanda wanted me to be. I let my shoulders sag as if they were too heavy to hold up anymore. I shuffled more than usual through the hallway, dragging one slipper against the floor. I even let my words tremble, sentences trailing into whispers, as if I'd forgotten what I was saying halfway through. Amanda noticed right away. I saw her eyes lit up with satisfaction. "Oh, Mom," she said in that honey-soaked voice, "you're extra tired today. Why don't you stay in your room and rest during the party? I'll bring you some cake." I blinked slowly, letting my lips curl into a weak smile. Exactly the one she expected. "Maybe I will. You always take such good care of me, dear." She gave my hand a little pat. To her, I was a bird with clipped wings. To me, I was a hawk folding them in, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That afternoon, she busied herself in my bedroom under the guise of helping. Fluffing pillows, smoothing the blankets, tucking the quilt tighter than necessary, as if to make sure I stayed put. I watched her through half-lidded eyes. Inside, my chest hummed with a secret thrill. Every line I spoke was a piece of the performance. Later, as she fluffed my pillows, I added the most important prop of all, trust. I lowered my voice, letting it tremble just enough. "Amanda, I keep the safe in the closet, just in case. I want you to have the combination. For emergencies." Her head jerked up just slightly. A spark flickered in her eyes, so quick an innocent person wouldn't notice. I reached into my nightstand and pulled out a small slip of paper. The numbers I'd memorized a lifetime ago. I pressed it into her palm, letting my hand tremble for effect. "I trust you completely, dear." The room went still for a moment. Amanda's fingers closed over the paper like a thief palming a coin. She glanced at the closet, then back at me, her smile never faltering. "Of course, Mom. I'll keep it safe for you." If only she knew. The words tasted like poison and victory at the same time. From that moment, the performance became a dance. She hovered over me like a vulture dressed as a nurse. "Do you need more water? Maybe just a little more medicine, so you can really rest before the party?" I nodded, sinking deeper into my pillows, letting my eyelids drift half shut. The perfect image of a woman floating between sleep and forgetfulness. Inside, my heart was steady. I saw it in her eyes. She thought she owned me now. Amanda thought she was watching me fade. She thought the house, the safe, and my life were already hers. And all the while, the cameras were rolling. By the time guests began arriving for David's party, I was asleep in my bedroom, the door cracked just enough for Amanda to peek in and believe her own lie. I could hear the house alive with celebration. Laughter in the living room. The pop of a champagne cork. The cheerful clinking of glasses. Amanda's voice rose above it all, bright and confident. She was the perfect hostess. The perfect daughter-in-law. The perfect liar. Every sound was a drumbeat in my chest. Because I knew what she was waiting for. And I knew exactly what was coming next. Amanda thought I was drifting into another nap. She had no idea I was wide awake, waiting for her to take the bait. She thought the night would end with my safe in her hands. She had no idea it would end with glitter in hers instead. The party was in full swing, alive with warmth and laughter. I could hear David's deep chuckle through the floorboards, the clinking of glasses, the muffled chorus of Happy Birthday. From my bedroom, I could hear the music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses. Amanda's voice floated through the hall, bright, confident, the perfect hostess. Balloons bobbed near the ceiling, and the smell of birthday cake and roast chicken filled the air. I could hear it all from my room, my door cracked just an inch. David's friends, family and work colleagues had gathered, raising their glasses in a cheerful toast. And every single one of them was looking at Amanda. "To Amanda," someone called, and a chorus of voices followed. "To the angel who takes care of David's mom." I watched through the tiny gap in the door as my daughter-in-law put a hand to her chest, smiling in perfect, modest delight. "Oh, I just do what anyone would do," she said sweetly, her voice carrying through the laughter. David raised his glass, beaming. "No, really, Amanda, you've been a saint. I couldn't do this without you. Mom's so lucky to have you." Guests nodded, murmuring their agreement, and someone even clapped. And there I sat in the shadows, my lips curling into a secret smile. They all saw an angel. I knew I was looking at a snake in pearls. They toasted her as a savior. And in less than an hour, they'd be staring at a thief. I lay in my bed, blanket pulled over my lap, the cameras streaming quietly to my tablet. My heart pounded like a drum, not with fear anymore, but with the delicious thrill of justice in motion. Then came the sound I'd been waiting for. Soft footsteps. Careful. Deliberate. I let my breathing stay slow, my body heavy, my eyelids drooping, every muscle part of my performance. And there she was, caught in perfect clarity on my tablet screen. Amanda slipped into my bedroom, glancing over her shoulder like a child sneaking cookies. Her hair was perfect, her smile gone. She crouched by the closet and opened the door. Her hand hovered over the safe like it was a chest of pirate gold. For a heartbeat, she just stared. Then she turned the dial slowly, glancing over her shoulder toward the hall. Not a sound from the party reached her now. She was in her own little world, heart pounding with greed. Click. The safe swung open. I held my breath as her face lit up. Stacks of bills. $17,000 in cash. The flash of my grandmother's diamonds. The warm glint of gold heirlooms. Everything she had been circling for weeks, all in one place. Her mouth twitched into a little smirk. And then her greedy hands reached inside. That's when it happened. Boom! The sound was magnificent, like a party favor colliding with a small cannon. The glitter bomb erupted, and a spectacular cloud of hot pink and gold glitter exploded out of the safe, catching Amanda square in the face. She shrieked and stumbled backward, coughing and sputtering violently, swatting the air like she'd been swarmed by bees. Her black blouse transformed into a shimmering rainbow. Tiny flecks rained into her hair, clung to her eyelashes, stuck to the sweat on her face. She was coated head to toe, in sparkling proof of her crime. I clapped a hand over my mouth to stifle a laugh. Weeks of quiet dread melted into pure, giddy satisfaction. The explosion echoed through the house like celebratory gunfire. I heard the shuffle of footsteps and my son's panicked voice. "Mom, what was that?" I performed my awakening with Academy Award precision, sitting up with startled confusion. "What on earth?" I gasped, fumbling for my bedside lamp. Light flooded the room. And there she was. Amanda, glitter-soaked, frozen beside my open safe. A wad of cash in her hand. My diamonds glinting at her feet. David's eyes went wide. "Amanda, what the hell is going on?" She opened her mouth to speak, but a puff of pink glitter escaped her lips instead. By then, more guests had crowded into the doorway, gasps rippling through the room. A whisper of laughter broke the tension, sharp and incredulous. The truth needed no explanation. In that single dazzling moment, my predator became the punchline. The whole family now saw her for what she was. And I was about to make sure she never forgot it. The room was frozen in shock except for Amanda's ragged breathing. Glitter clung to every inch of her face and hair. The cash in her hand trembled. My diamonds sparkled at her feet, each one a witness to her betrayal. For a moment, no one moved. The party music had cut off, the laughter gone. All you could hear was the faint hiss of the glitter still settling onto the floor. David's face was the one I couldn't look away from. My son. His mouth hung slightly open, eyes darting from me to the safe to Amanda, searching for an explanation he didn't want to find. He was the first to speak. "Amanda, what is this?" His voice cracked on her name. He looked from the safe to the cash in her hands to me, like his brain refused to process what his eyes already knew. "What are you doing?" She blinked at him, her mouth opening and closing. I was just. The words died in her throat. A puff of pink glitter escaped her lips like smoke, and the guests gasped softly. Someone in the doorway whispered, "Oh my God." Amanda stammered, a hand fluttering toward her cheek. It's not what it looks like." That was my moment. For the first time all night, I pushed the blanket off my lap and pushed myself upright. Weeks of pretending to be fragile were gone. I felt taller than I had in months as I reached for my walker, gripping it with steady hands, and rolled myself forward into the middle of the room. Every eye turned to me, waiting, holding their breath. I stopped beside Amanda, looked up at her. Close enough to see the panic in her eyes, the glitter clinging to her lashes like tears. I let my voice ring out, calm, steady, unshakable. "I may be old, but I'm not blind." The room reacted like I'd struck a match. Gasps swelled into murmurs. David staggered back a step. Amanda's mouth trembled. "Mom, no, it's not, she's confused," Amanda blurted, her voice trembling. "The stroke, she forgets things. It's making you imagine things." I raised a single hand, and the room went quiet again. "Confused? Maybe you should explain this, then." I picked up my tablet from the nightstand and tapped the screen. The living room TV flickered to life, and the first camera feed filled the screen. And there it was for everyone to see. Amanda appeared on the screen, clear as day. Amanda creeping into my bedroom. Amanda opening my closet. Amanda spinning the safe's dial with a greedy little smirk, just before the glitter bomb crowned her in shame. A stunned silence filled the living room. Some guests erupted in shocked laughter and outrage as they watched Amanda panic and flail on the recording. I let the video play a few seconds longer, then tapped again. Then, from the TV speakers, her voice rang out, clear as a bell from the recordings I'd saved. "The old lady's completely out of it. After the party, I'll get everything. David thinks I'm a saint." Another clip followed. "Once I move her into a home, it'll be so much easier. She won't even remember half this stuff." David's face went white. "You," he whispered, voice shaking. Then louder, raw with pain. "You were stealing from my mother?" Amanda's hands shook. It's not, I was just trying to, David, I was just, please, I can explain." "Don't," David snapped, his voice breaking. "Don't lie to me again." He turned to me, his eyes glassy with guilt and heartbreak. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I never knew this was happening." I reached out and touched his hand gently. "It's all right, son. You see her now. That's all I needed." The room erupted, guests whispering, shaking their heads, some even pulled out phones, recording the glitter-soaked thief as if she were a circus act. Amanda's glittered face crumpled under the weight of 100 staring eyes. In the harsh light of the living room, surrounded by witnesses, her halo shattered. The woman who spent weeks playing the angel of the family now looked like what she truly was. A trembling, sparkling thief. Her lies had finally shattered in front of everyone. But I wasn't finished, she still had to face the consequences. David stood in front of her, his chest rising and falling, the veins in his neck taut. My son, the boy I raised to be a good man, was seeing the full truth for the first time. And his heart was breaking. His lips parted like he wanted to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Finally, in a voice that cracked under the weight of disbelief, he said, "Amanda, what is this?" She took a half step toward him, trembling. It's not, please let me explain, I was." The sight of his wife, once the angel of our family, now sparkling like a criminal under a spotlight, was almost surreal. He held out his hand. "Give me the money. Now." She hesitated, trembling, her eyes darting around the room. No allies. No excuses left. David's voice rose, thick with grief and rage. This woman who raised me, who trusted you." He choked on the words. "And you tried to destroy her." I watched my son as his heartbreak hardened into resolve. He extended his hand, palm up like a final command. I said, "Give me the money." Amanda froze. Her fingers tightened on the bills, her eyes darting from him to me to the floor. No one in the room moved to help her. Finally, she slowly placed the wad of bills into his palm, fingers sticky with glitter. He set it on the dresser, next to the open safe, and stared at her for a long, heavy moment. Then he shook his head, his voice low and raw. "You were stealing from my mother. The woman who let you into her home. The woman who trusted you. Amanda started to sob. I can fix this, David, please, No. The word cracked through the air like a whip. He turned toward the door, then back to her. His next words were ice. Get out. We're done. Gasps fluttered through the guests, but no one spoke against him. No one defended her. Amanda looked at me, glitter-streaked tears running down her face. For the first time since my stroke, she had no smile, no sugar in her voice, no power. Slowly, she walked toward the door. Each step left faint smudges of pink and gold on the hardwood floor. The trail of her shame. My granddaughter whispered, almost in awe. She's sparkling like a disco ball. Some guests let out nervous laughter. Others just shook their heads, still stunned that the angel of the family had fallen so far. Amanda didn't look back. She opened the front door, her shoulders shaking. She stepped into the night and disappeared, her trail of glitter the only proof she'd ever been there. When the door shut, the room seemed to exhale. The tension that had clung to the walls for weeks finally broke. David turned to me, his eyes wet. He knelt by my chair, took my hand in both of his, and whispered, Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you when you first told me you were losing your priced items. I should have protected you. I reached out and squeezed his hand. It's all right, son. You did in the end. That's what matters. My family gathered close around me then, one by one, hugging me, kissing my forehead, promising that I'd never be alone again. The warmth of that moment wrapped around me like a blanket I hadn't felt in months. For the first time in months, I felt truly safe. The warmth of their love, real love, filled every cold corner of the house Amanda had tainted. My home was mine again. My life was mine again. I had faced betrayal. I had faced isolation. And I had won. Amanda walked out glittering in shame, and with every sparkling step, the weight of her betrayal lifted from my chest. The house was quiet again. The party had ended hours ago. The laughter had returned for a while, but when the last guest left and the lights dimmed, I finally had a moment to myself. I sat in my armchair by the window, the soft lamplight spilling across my lap, and let the stillness sink in. David called me from the kitchen. Mom, do you need anything before I head to bed? I shook my head. No, son. I have everything I need right here. He kissed my forehead and whispered, I love you, Mom. I'll never let anyone hurt you again. I watched him walk away, and a warmth filled my chest. Months passed after that unforgettable night. In the days that followed, life became sweet again. Friends returned to visit. My granddaughter baked me muffins. And every time someone came over, they asked the same thing. Grandma, tell us the story of the glitter bomb again. I'd smile, sip my tea, and start from the beginning. How they all thought I was weak, but I was just waiting for the perfect moment to show my strength. Amanda never came back. I heard she tried to scrub the glitter from her hair for weeks. David and we were closer now, but he carried a sadness I couldn't fully take from him. Betrayal leaves a mark, even on the strongest hearts. He told me quietly that he couldn't stay with Amanda. He had tried, God knows he had, but trust, once shattered, doesn't stitch itself back together. And then came the final nail in the coffin. One evening, he sat in my living room, staring at his hands. Mom, I found out there was more, he said, his voice tight. She wasn't just stealing from you. She was seeing someone else. A younger man. She was using your jewelry, your cash, to fund his lifestyle. The words hit like a cold wind, but I just nodded. Somehow, I wasn't surprised. When greed lives in someone's heart, loyalty can't. Weeks later, Amanda tried to make amends. She called me, voice shaking, begging for forgiveness. I listened. And when she was done, I said softly, Amanda, I forgive you. But not for you, for me. I don't need the weight of hurt in my heart. I want peace. I heard her sob on the other end, but I felt nothing but relief as I hung up. David eventually met someone new. A kind woman with warm eyes and a gentle laugh that filled the quiet spaces of my home. They came over often, sometimes with my granddaughter, sometimes just to drink tea and sit on the porch with me. My house felt full of laughter again. One spring afternoon, as we all sat together, I caught my son looking at me with the same soft smile he had when he was a boy. "Mom," he said, "you're tougher than anyone I know." I smiled back, feeling the sunlight on my face. I survived betrayal. I reclaimed my home. I even forgave the woman who tried to erase me. And every day, I remind myself of the truth that carried me through it all. They thought my stroke made me weak, but it made me a warrior instead. If this story moved you, if it sparked memories of someone you're fighting for, or someone you finally found the courage to stand up to, then take a second. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone. And drop a comment below. I read every one. This is a space where your voice matters. If you want more true stories about the breaking points that change everything, hit the subscribe to our channel Betty's Stories and turn on notifications. More stories are coming. Because in a world that tries to silence the betrayed, sharing your story is an act of courage.